order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Moore? Mrs. Rich?
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher?
Here.
Mr. Kraftcheck?
Here.
Mr. Parzak?
Here.
The meeting is now open. Adequate notice of the meeting was provided by posting a copy of the time and place on the municipal clerk's bulletin board and mailing a copy of same to the press and the Cape May County Herald on January 4th, 2019. Will everyone please rise to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Moore is en route. He's running a couple minutes late, so he will be joining us soon. So we'll start the work session with public safety.
The court administrator.
Good job. Good afternoon, everyone. I want
Hi,
to let you know, we
Debbie.
did hire a part-timer. We're training her now when she's done school. She comes in for an hour every day. Hopefully in the middle of June, full-time, she'll be off and running, that we'd be able to let her handle some phone calls. She's already working on tickets on her own, so good thing. Tickets have picked up a little bit with parking. They are out doing meters and blocking driveways and whatnot right now. So that's basically all I have. Anybody have anything for me?
You're all ready for the summer.
We're hoping.
Okay.
Fire
Chief
Department.
Stanford.
While Roger's walking up, I just want to remind the public safety department heads, because Roger will probably leave after his presentation, of the beach opening on Saturday at noon, and that you guys are once again going to be competing against one another. And you need 4 people from your department, and the department head, the chief, the captain, has to be one of the four people. So just so you know, that's what we need.
I'll be away, sorry.
Okay.
The report for April for the fire department, we had 19 fire calls, which is a little above the previous year. 29 EMS calls, which was twice what we had the previous year. April calls included 1 building fire, 7 natural gas leaks, 2 cover assignments, 7 fire alarms, and 2 carbon monoxide alarms. And that's my report.
Thank you.
Police Department.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The monthly report for the police department for April, there were 67 motor vehicle stops and 5 adults were arrested. The update on personnel, we have 3 SLEO 2s that are currently working. 7 SLEO 2 recruits are attending police training at the Cape May County Police Academy, expected to graduate at the end of June, June 27th. We have 2 SLEO 1s that are currently working. 1 just started today. We also have 1 SLEO 1 that will begin working sometime in June, middle of June, after they graduate from the high school program, the Cape May County Tech Law Enforcement Program. We still have 2 full-time officer recruits attending basic training at the Police Academy in Cape May with an expected graduation date of June 7th. And the full-time officer candidate that was interviewed by the Public Safety Committee last week and subsequently approved will be sworn in later tonight. Thank you very much. He is currently attending the Camden County Police Academy as an alternate route candidate with an expected graduation date of June 5th. So after June 7th, we should have all 17 people back and working, which would certainly be a plus. In terms of a building update, I've been up here for the past 2 years plus, providing you with monthly updates. I guess this is my last one. And what more can I say than a continued thank you to all of you and all the public, all the department heads that helped us out with that project. The ribbon cutting ceremony last Friday was really nice, better than I expected it was ever going to go. Everything from the beautiful day we had to the nice turnout of the public, the retired members of the police department that came back, Everything was just really nice, and then the positive feedback from the public that we got from the tours. It was really, really nice. So again, thank you to Mayor and Council, Mrs. Goucher, Mr. Kraft, Grant Russ, Supervisor with DPW, and his people. I mean, we called on a moment's notice. They were there with multiple large projects and smaller projects, and we really couldn't have got the job done without it. Thank you. And of course, Jenny Olson for organizing the dedication day. Thank you. Nice job. Last month, I had mentioned that we were going to be going through a reaccreditation process. That was through the New Jersey State Chiefs of Police. We did have the accreditation process, the on-site assessment, on April 29th and 30th. Based on the feedback from the assessment team, all went very well, and we are scheduled for our final hearing with the commission for the accreditation process on June 13th. So we expect to be presented with the go-ahead for accreditation on that date, and then sometime later we'll receive a certificate. Arbor Day, I'd like to thank the Stone Harbor Elementary School for having us, all the members of the police department, at the Stone Harbor Elementary School for Arbor Day, where they dedicated the day and the planting of a tree to the police department. It was a really nice day to watch each grade level get up and do their own little presentation. It was cute, and it was very much appreciated. We thank them. Basically, that's all I have for this month. I do wish everyone a happy and safe Memorial Day weekend, as we know it's approaching. And I do ask the public to be mindful of the local ordinances, particularly on the beach. We will have uniform officers out there, and some officers that you may not know are out there to enforce the various ordinances. That's pretty much all I have.
Chief, for Memorial Day, I hate to keep asking this, but we're all set?
We're good to go, yes.
You know, everybody knows what to do. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, lifeguard, Sandy.
Good afternoon. This Saturday will be our first day with lifeguards on duty. I think we'll have about half of the beaches protected, maybe a little more. It'll depend how many people show up. It's also the first day with the beach taggers. They are fully staffed, and it's a nice group of mostly high school and college-aged kids. Sunday will be our annual lifeguard tryout. It consists of a timed half-mile ocean swim, a 7-minute mile run, and then we have an interview. The weather is supposed to be very nice this weekend, and we're over at the headquarters gearing up now, moving equipment, getting everything ready, and we're just looking forward to a great summer. That's all I have.
Is the beach tag office now 7 days a week?
Yes,
Manned,
they're
it
open
is.
until Labor Day now.
And do we continue to sell beach tags at Borough Hall simultaneously, or just there?
We have a limited supply at Borough Hall. When they're finished with that, if someone comes, and we're not advertising for people to come into
Okay.
Borough Hall, but if they do, we have some.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, OEM.
Good afternoon. Don't really have much. I just wanted to remind council as well as the public that June 1st is the beginning of hurricane season. So have a plan. It's never too soon to start thinking about that. All of the forecasts that we're getting are generally for a average to a slightly above average season. Probably a lot like it was last year. So a lot of that's being dictated by El Nino. So we're just kind of keeping our fingers crossed, but the biggest thing, again, like I said, is just to remind the public to have a plan and start preparing now. The height of hurricane season is August and September, and it gets here pretty quickly. So that's all I have. Okay? Thank you. And we'll see you on Saturday. And there should be an age curve for this because the fire company last year, oldest out there, I'm just saying, Sandy.
There is one change, though. It's not, you are not competing to open the ocean, because that is Sandy's privilege, and I feel that that's something cannot be taken from Sandy Basacco. So you're competing for a special trophy. Okay? A coveted trophy. You shall see it on Saturday. But nobody can take that beach unlocking from Sandy Basacco. And that's it then for public safety. Anything? Recreation and tourism.
So Tina couldn't be here today, so she sent me some things to just read off to you. So I want to start with those. This is for the rec. So programming, currently they have 100 pickleball tournament registrants, 20 more than last year, and the registration closes June 10th. Spring youth tennis started May 10th, off to a good start with 14 full-time registrants. Now that we have some great weather, all the tennis courts and pickleball courts are currently free and on a first-come, first-served basis. The tennis support building will be open June 17th, and all court rentals will start then also. As far as facilities, the Hartrue courts have been reconditioned and are in great shape. Playing surface maintenance, including basketball, pickleball, tennis, shuffleboard, and bocce, is scheduled for the first week of June and should last a week. And construction of the new bike fix-it station has begun. That's at the old skateboard park. Fence installation will finish up this week, and the hardware will follow. So that is, if you have any questions about the rec, I'll, note them and send them off to Tina. Now, as far as tourism goes, I have 3 new special event applications that you have. One of them is, a last-minute one that we need to get approved at the council meeting today, and that's, I'll start with that one. It's for Cape Express College ID Clinic. It's scheduled for Friday, May 31st from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., and they use the 80th Street Fields for high school students to be seen by colleges. The only request that they are asking is that the fields be mowed prior to the event. It's been signed off by all the department heads. It is contingent on him submitting his certificate of insurance before the event. I don't have it, but I told him he cannot have the event until that insurance shows up. The next 2, we have everything on these, the signatures and the insurance for these 2. The next one is, I want to do the Burke Motors Get in Gear Bike and Stroll event. That's Saturday, September 7th. It's a community event. It promotes health and exercise, and it's a fundraiser to benefit local college scholarship funds. It's not a timed race. It's participants check in at Burke Motors. They visit event sponsors throughout the town all day to redeem coupons and special offers. It's all done at their own pace. The only request they are asking for is the week prior, they would like to set up a table outside of the 80th Street Rec Building to promote the event and register some new participants. It will be done with their own table and their own staff. They just want to have a place to do that. And then the third is the Stone Harbor Triathlon. This is the 21st annual triathlon, Sunday, July 21st. Pretty much the same as previous years. The swim portion takes place at the Stone Harbor Yacht Club Basin. The bike portion is 3 loops along 2nd Avenue from 89th Street to 122nd Street. The run portion exits the yacht club. It travels 1 loop along 1st Avenue from 88th Street to 108th Street. They just request, the police department to aid with safety during the bike and run portion, and fire and rescue to provide EMS support. And for those, we have insurance and sign-offs for everything. At the later meeting, we do have some events that we spoke with about last meeting that are up for approval, and that's the Turtle Trot and the film shoot for Will Be Boys. They did add a detailed sketch on exactly where they're shooting as well for that film. For this weekend, we have a really busy weekend coming up. Mayor Judy did talk about the beach opening ceremony. That is this Saturday, starts sharply at noon. We're going to start setting up at 9:30. There'll be music starting at 11:30, but the event starts at noon, and it is similar to last year's event, but the new challenges are all a secret until Saturday. We also have on Saturday, just FYI, the War at the Shore Touch Football Tournament will be going on at 80th Street. Sunday morning, we have the Chamber of Commerce Turtle Trot. Then we also have the Farmers Market's debut for the year. It starts at 8 a.m. The parsley ribbon cutting for that event will be at 10 o'clock. Just gives time for the Turtle Trot to be over. So we'll have a parsley ribbon cutting there. We do have 31 vendors for the Farmers Market, 2 new vendors. We have Maui Joe's Shaved Ice and Salty Acres with handcrafted sea salt. That's new. And we do have new bags I brought. And this is what they look like this year. Looks like our beach tag. So, and then Monday, we have the American Legion Parade. We'll be staging at 11 a.m., and then the parade starts at noon. And
Yeah, it stages at 11:30.
11:30.
So everybody, 11:30.
Okay, I'll be there.
And then step off at, and Jenny's going to get the parade going from St. Paul's parking lot.
Oh, she's going to be in charge of the, okay, sending everyone off. Okay, okay.
We'll get 'em started.
And then with council, what is your wishes, walk or ride? I can have a cart that will be for anyone who wants to ride, and then anybody who wants to walk, you can walk with the cart, the golf cart. So you can make your decision that day, but we'll have something where we can all be together, either a couple walk-in, riding, just a mix, if that meets with everybody's approval. Okay, all right, so I'll have the golf cart there decorated and ready to go, some in, some out. Okay.
And that's everything I have at the moment.
Oh, and the only other thing is the ceremony at the firehouse
11.
at 11 o'clock.
At 11, yeah.
Okay.
Roger is taking care of that.
Oh, okay, no, I just mean
Yeah,
serving as
11,
a
yeah.
reminder.
On Monday.
On Monday at 11
On
o'clock,
Monday,
yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Any questions? Okay.
Okay, all right, big weekend for you. Big weekend for all of us. Anything else for recreation and tourism?
Are we going to discuss these in discussion on the bottom and not during that?
That's, yes, that's what I was looking, I was actually looking at that, and I was thinking I was also going to update the chamber meeting, update everybody on the meeting with the chamber. Now, we can do all that right now under recreation and tourism, or wait till the end of discussion. Anybody have any?
Go for it, because natural resources is not that long a report today.
Okay, so we'll just move along. Okay, natural resources, then you want to just go and then we'll add it at the end, is that what you mean?
I mean, go ahead with your, I would
Oh, okay.
go ahead with the
With the discussion on the plastics ordinance.
yeah.
So the chamber had they have 2 general membership meetings a year, and they had their spring meeting last week, and they asked me to be in attendance to answer questions about the single-use plastics ordinance. And at that time, the membership was encouraged to give us any questions or concerns they may have by, I believe it was maybe June 1st or by Memorial Day weekend. And I said we'd be way better served if we got our questions prior to the council meeting so everybody could be here and discuss them and get at this as soon as possible, since this is the last meeting prior to the actual compliance date of June 1st. So at the meeting, there was not an overabundance of questions. Jill and Kim did receive a couple, and they can fill us in on that. And the one thing that came out of the meeting was In the definitions, it states that these products have to meet the standards of the American Society for Testing and Materials, ASTM. Merchants were getting onto the website and everybody's being charged a sum of money, $30, $40 to get at those specifics. So what we're going to do, we're going to get those specifics and we're going to provide them. And also, by the same token, as a reminder to the merchants, when you're dealing with your distributor, they should be aware of that and also kind of counseling you as to whether or not it complies. I mean, it gets into some pretty specific, scientific, for lack of a better word, thing that is, it's going to be something that's difficult for the average person to comprehend. So your distributor should have knowledge of that and be able to guide you. But we will be getting a copy of that and making it available on the website, I'm assuming?
Yes, we'll make sure we post it on the website. I'll also.
And then members don't have to log on themselves, assume the additional fee, and so on. So that was the one question that was asked at the meeting. Other than that, we discussed some exceptions, and that was it. There wasn't a whole lot. So if Jill, if you've got other questions you want to share with what you got.
Primarily the questions, and I believe almost everyone that had come in and asked the questions, you'll actually discuss their request for an exemption. It was mainly on complying with the bags, the reusable bags. We actually did talk to two distributors that a lot of our businesses use, and the biggest problem was they didn't even have a copy of the ordinance. So it made it very difficult. I don't know how they could explain to and make sure that the businesses were complying when they didn't even have a copy of it. So Kim had sent them both a copy of the ordinance. We gave them a little bit of direction on it, suggested places that they could go to get some more information on it. But like I said, the most difficult seemed to be complying with the reusable carry plastic bag. We did have questions on the cups and things like that, but I think they were earlier on, and when the people came in, we said whether that particular one complied or didn't comply, indicated whether they could use compostable versus recyclable, that type of information.
Okay.
The biggest thing was, the other thing was, a lot of them have ordered the materials, but they won't be in time. So you'll see in some of the requests here, they're not asking for a whole year. They might be asking for a month or 2 months, depending on when they know that their distributor will be able to get the materials in to comply with the ordinance.
Okay. So that really was the gist of what we did with the chamber. So that... Okay. Sure. Normally, we do the public comment in the meeting, but go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. Well, when we get to public comment in the next meeting. Yeah, yeah.
I would just like to submit a letter from the chamber following our meeting.
Oh, okay.
And just mention that we appreciate you being there and our discussion that day and a continuing discussion that we'll be having. I just would like to read a letter from the chamber that we would like to have considered. The Stone Harbor Chamber of Commerce is working with our members to educate them about the single-use plastics ban effective June 1st. We've provided information regarding submitting the hardship requests, and we're going to work on providing images and signage for our members to print and use consistently throughout their businesses that tell the message that when you are receiving these products from us, this is what you are to do with them when you're finished with them. There is frustration in knowing that Cape May County does not have a compostable facility. And according to Lynn Krumbach at the MUA, there won't be one for several years. And it's frustrating in knowing that recycling capabilities within the county are changing. And we all are aware of this. After the ordinance 466 has been written, There have been some changes, I believe, within the county and what they are able to recycle. We at the Chamber will do our best to communicate with our members and with you to make this movement a positive one. Since the ordinance only restricts the businesses, we would like your cooperation to make these changes, make the difference we all want to see throughout Stone Harbor as a business, or pardon me, as a borough. We're requesting that all trash and recycling cans and receptacles throughout the business district are clearly marked regarding what is considered trash and what is considered recyclable. I do understand that your door hanger, which is terrific, that's going to be given out to residents. Something this large can't very well be put on the trash and recycling receptacles, but if throughout town we could have some type of permanent signage that has this information available so that our visitors and our vacationers will know what they're doing with what they receive once they leave our restaurants and our businesses. I do want to point out also that on the do not recycle sign, compostables is not listed on here. So maybe as we continue to work on this sign, we could add something like that, because we understand that compostables do not go in the recycling containers. They're going in the regular trash. Compostable products should not go into the recycling bins. According to Ms. Krumbach, if only 10% of recycling containers come to the county MUA with contaminated materials, which includes compostables, the entire container will go onto the landfill. And this will not move us forward in our efforts to become a green community. We also recommend that our beachfront trash and recycling containers be thoughtfully upgraded to allow for proper disposal of trash versus recycling, and recreate them so perhaps the seagulls cannot access them, our visitors can make quick decisions about disposal, and we can keep our beaches clean. So that is just something we would like to submit and work towards with you all. I know that there are several members who have specific questions and comments about compostables and pricing, but once again, if we can do that during public comment, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we can do that. And also to what Marnie just said, I had neglected to say that that was another thing that was discussed at their general membership meeting, that if we can get some kind of consistent, simple signage.
And
So,
we are
and we
internally
brought that back.
Working on having that done quickly.
And there is a great website. We do have a fabulous interactive website for looking to see how you dispose of certain things through that Public Works has, and it's an app as well.
I would suggest that we have our kiosks downtown, and we put that bigger in.
On there.
Yeah, that is part of our plan, to put it in the kiosks, and actually even the bigger ones in our full-size kiosks in between when we have special events.
So the gist of what they were saying is if it can be consistent, so when you're in town, if you see red, this is what red means, and just make it consistent. So before we start to piecemeal it, come up with a marketing plan, so to speak, and I had told them that Go Green would be looking at that.
Correct. You are on.
Thank you.
So move on to the exceptions. First one is the Dairy Queen. Discussion.
I think, I want to assume we all read these. There's 5 of them? I think
Yes.
there's 5 of them. And with the exception of Dairy Queen, these businesses are asking from anywhere from 1 to 5 weeks of extension to use up their stock. And I think that's more than
That's reasonable.
reasonable.
Yeah.
And they've all indicated that they're going to comply. They just need that little bit of time.
Some
to
of
get
them
rid of what they
even
have.
submitted their invoices to show us that they have
Right.
already bought other
Right, and that was one of our
but they just-
requirements. Right.
Right, so, we can't argue that.
Yeah.
And the Dairy Queen, I think, they're asking for a year, and I think we agreed with Wawa to do 6 months, and I don't think there's any reason to go a year on Dairy Queen. I mean,
Right, and the one thing too with the Dairy Queen, as I looked and they wanted a year, is they're not even open. You know what I mean? So by the time they're not even open. So I would agree with you, though, I don't think we want to extend anybody beyond December 31st.
I agree.
Definitely not. And then as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, when do they close? And they're asking for a year. I did just,
No,
they're not even
I think-
open.
I think we're being more than reasonable, and I think, we're making progress on this. We can't get everything at one time, so, but I think we're making significant progress, and we'll work with them.
So at the meeting, when we want a motion, we want a motion till December 31st for them?
For Dairy Queen?
Yeah. Or do we not want to have a motion on the regular and get back to them and tell them that, or how do you want to handle it? We've got these ones that are before us, there's motions at the regular meeting, whether or not to grant them.
We can grant those, and I don't know how you want to word, till.
Are we going to do them after
31st
June
of
1st?
December.
I would suggest that somebody could realize something beyond June 1st that they didn't, and I think as long as there's proof positive that it's truly like a hardship or something, not just simply lack of wanting to comply. But, I mean, I think case-by-case basis. I would rather not just say as of June 1st, we won't accept anymore. Maybe somebody's using a particular product that then becomes unavailable or something. But I would think we just continue to entertain them. And then we just wouldn't grant them if we think that they're not reasonable.
I think
Agreed?
with the Dairy Queen, we come up with the date, December 30th.
December 31st.
Yeah.
Yep, all right, so we'll have a motion with the December 31st for them. Who is next? Douglas Fudge. They want just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Douglas Fudge is only asking for a week.
1 week.
They
Their
said they
bags
won't,
are shipping on the 6th of,
the 6th of June, they're
June.
shipping.
so,
June 31st?
I want to request a week extension.
there is no 31st of June.
Oh, 30 days has September, you're right.
So they're asking for June 8th. They're asking for 1 week. So why don't we be a little liberal in case there doesn't get to them and give them 2 weeks?
Well, it's like you said, if they're
Give them the 15th.
waiting for new inventory, but they have old inventory, and that old inventory is just going in the trash, or perhaps that's going to another location where they don't have the ban, that would be my guess, so they want a week.
So they say they don't ship till the 6th.
Right.
So then they get here, we're already beyond their week. So if we give them to the 15th, reasonable?
Seems completely reasonable.
Okay. Paul Prince, he's asking till July 31st.
He was at the chamber meeting, and I, after speaking with him briefly, completely sincere, and
He had the bag with him, and he said he bought them on July 6th. He attached his invoice. He only has a handful of them left. And, yeah, here's his bag.
there it is.
And the thing is, what will he do if he doesn't use them? He'll throw them in the trash.
Right, same thing.
So we'll grant that until July 31st. Who is next?
Separately, swimwear.
Just a few weeks.
And they ordered bags as well.
So what are they asking for? The
For a
end
few
of
weeks,
June
end of June, beginning of July.
or first week of July? Okay, July 7th? Go July 7th for them. And then we were just handed one?
Well-dressed olive.
Excuse me?
Yeah, the well-dressed
Well-dressed
Oh.
olive we just gave you.
Okay.
They're asking for July 31st, an extension.
Till July 31st, under the impression that the products met the requirements and need to confirm. Any problem with that one, anybody?
No.
Okay. So we'll have motions for all of them on the regular meeting. Anything more on the single-use plastics?
Refresh my memory. Does the ordinance have a date where the exemptions end? Like, we're accepting exemptions for the first year? Is it worded
Does,
that way?
let me
or-
see.
It said that the maximum would be 1 year.
1 year, okay.
Up to 1 year, that was it.
What do you mean, we're going to be accepting them up until
No,
2020, or an exemption will be for as long as a year?
you can grant the exemption for 1 year.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to natural resources.
Good afternoon, everyone. If I could just, one quick comment that might help. The ASTM standards are very difficult to read. Most of the products online, if you just go in, there's other certifications that make things green products, and those, to get those certifications, require that they meet the ASTM standards. So a lot of times, it's a lot easier to just go for this BPI certification, and all that's already covered, so rather.
And you know that it met the OCM
And you know,
standards?
for it to have that, and that's a simple certification to read, so instead of getting in the weeds of trying to read
Right.
it's like, you know, organics. If something's certified organic, you don't have to go read the standards. It's the same sort of thing, so that might help the vendors and/or the merchants that are trying to find this, is just look for those certifications. It's easier.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, I have a couple of quick updates for you. The Stone Harbor Bird Sanctuary, garden maintenance planting was completed on Friday with the help of volunteers from the Bird Sanctuary Committee, as well as some Wetlands Institute staff. We planted 253 plants throughout the gardens, in the meadow, and in the island that's on the entry to the Stone Harbor from Nummi Island. This was filling in spots and places that didn't do great over the winter. I think they look really good, and thanks for Public Works for getting the irrigation on to help get those watered in. And they look, I think the gardens look pretty good. We are gearing up for tours at the sanctuary. The education interns are here now at the Institute being trained. They'll be leading sanctuary tours beginning, I think, June 2nd throughout the summer on Saturdays and Sundays, and we'll be out training them in the sanctuary on Thursday, getting them all geared up for everything. A bigger topic of discussion is a proposal for treatment of Phragmites at the bird sanctuary. I believe you should maybe have all gotten a copy of that. The storyline on this is the Bird Sanctuary Committee has been reviewing the sanctuary. Did they not get it? Did you?
I saw the proposal somewhere, I'm not sure where I saw it, but I did see it.
Yeah, it was submitted to everybody.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it from the
Looks like this.
Natural Resources Committee.
I saw it in the minutes of the Natural Resources Committee meeting, maybe. I know that I saw it, but I don't remember where I saw it.
Anybody want a copy?
Okay, well,
Go for it.
Well, you can just
okay.
verbalize it. I
Yep,
mean,
yep.
it's-
Yes, she's going to.
That's what I'm going to do. I didn't know people, where everyone was. So effectively, the Bird Sanctuary Committee made a recommendation to the Borough Natural Resources Committee to undertake a program to try to manage Phragmites in the bird sanctuary. This is the common reed. It's 12 feet tall. If you drive by there, you've seen it undoubtedly. The site is a sensitive site, and this is a permitted activity, and it needs to be planned. This is not something that could be done by Public Works at this point in time. So we reached out to Princeton Hydro, which is a consulting firm, and asked them to provide a proposal for what it would take to manage Phragmites. And they provided this proposal that is somewhere in circulation. And effectively, they've outlined 4 tasks to be done. The first, the key tasks are to acquire, to put together a plan as to how they would do the treatment, when that would occur, site access, sensitive species, and how the whole plan would work. So creating a plan is the first step in this, and then getting the permitting, the task associated with acquiring a freshwater wetlands general permit, which would be required from NJDEP to allow the activity to occur. There's a task there that includes the conceptual plan for how they would do the treatment is a main component of the permit. So those 2 tasks go hand in hand for how they would be accomplished. There's a task item here we believe we won't need, but we're not completely certain, and that would be a tidal wetlands permit, because there are tidal wetlands there, but we don't believe there's going to be much treatment in the tidal wetlands. The Phragmites is managed by salt pretty well, so it's mostly a freshwater marsh and marsh edge issue in that regard. There's a cost for that as well. And then later, probably at least a year from the implementation of this would then be the actual treatment to be planned over a 3-year timeframe where they actually go in and treat the Phragmites and conduct the monitoring associated with that. The plan was, I met with them on site and walked the site and talked it through, received the plan. The presence of Cope's tree frogs out there, which is a state endangered species, is going to make this a little bit tricky to get permitted. So it really does require folks that spend a lot of time permitting these activities, which Princeton Hydro does, and figuring out the timings of that, as well as other sensitive species out there to be able to manage this. John Flynn, who's a committee member of the Bird Sanctuary, is recently retired from NJDEP. He reached out to a colleague of his that at NJDEP that was in charge of the Phragmites control program for the DEP for over 30 years. He reviewed the proposal and gave it a thumbs up. He thought it was a sound proposal. He has high regard for Princeton Hydro. So we're here to open a discussion on this and answer any questions to see if we can move this forward. I am working on possible sources to fund the actual implementation of the plan. It would be difficult to fund the planning or the permitting. Those are almost impossible to have somebody else fund. But there's a fairly optimistic look at the Natural Resources Damage Fund that's managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is a partner at the Bird Sanctuary and has, in the past, managed Phragmites on the site. So I think there's some opportunity there to work with them to see if we can get some funds to help with the actual implementation phase of this. So the proposal as structured is, the costs in here are $2,400 for the plan prep, $3,850 for freshwater permits, which would be in there, and then there's an additional $4,000 if the title permits are needed. At this point, we're asking for approval, I guess, of the plan and the freshwater permitting. The Bird Sanctuary Committee made a request for a budget item that was approved in the Natural Resources budget for $3,000 to begin this process.
So the majority of the money is in the permitting.
Majority of the money is in the
It's
permitting.
all in that.
Yeah, like I said, we're hoping we don't need the title permits, but we won't know that until the plan is submitted and the freshwater. So they would make an application for a freshwater permit and hope they don't come back and see you need a second permit.
How long do you anticipate it takes to get those permits?
The first phase of this would be to get the plan. I think the plan would be over the summer. We did spend some effort when the Clean Shores team was here to create another access. We opened up one of the areas that we cleaned on 111th near 3rd, would actually allow them access to the freshwater marsh, which will simplify this. So there was some, planning ahead to that. But I would think the plan would be for the bulk of the summer, getting the planning together and then trying to move to submitting permits. So I would like to think we could do that in 2019, at least the first phase of the permit, with a push into at least 2020 before we'd be able to do any treatment. But I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
In terms of when that time.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were like, some of these permits take years. It's
Yeah.
not,
They have review limits that there's a 60-day review limit once they get all the materials. There would be consultation. I suspect there's going to be a significant amount of consultation on the front side to get the permit where they're comfortable with how we're going to manage these species that are there.
okay.
I completely trust this process because it's being done the way it should be done. And it's, it's part of our management of the sanctuary, and we continue to do everything the right way. So I would hope that everyone would agree that we take the first step and move forward on this.
Anybody have any questions on it, or?
Well, I think, if left unchecked, Lenore, if left, to their own devices, the Phragmites do what? They just overtake the,
They'll just, they're
They
just
just keep
completely
spreading?
overtake. Yeah, they'll just completely overtake the marshes. There's also a question of purple loosestrife that's now appeared in the freshwater marshes on 2nd Avenue by 114th. This plan would actually address that as well. So it's managing two nuisance species that are causing damage.
And then there's going, they'll, if this is
If this works
successfully
after
done,
Then we would move into kind of an ongoing maintenance, which is what we're already doing with the borough, Public Works, just maintaining a maintenance component, and they're already doing that. with
so we'll be able to
Jefferson
do that in-house, hopefully.
Yes, yep, once we get it, so the idea is to get a handle on it, and then just keep it down, and not let it get away.
Thoughts? Comments?
I saw something in the minutes that they've, at this point, I think, going unchecked since 2014.
About that, maybe 15, because
Okay.
it was being managed by Fish and Wildlife under the permitting and the monitoring associated with the permits that we used to do the restoration of the sanctuary. That was a 5-year monitoring for the wetland restoration project there. That 5-year monitoring, I think, ended in about 2012, because I was just coming on to some of those projects. That was when Duffield finished. That contract with Duffield finished when they were finished with the 5-year monitoring on the wetlands. John Flynn was actually able to keep Fish and Wildlife Service there, coming out and doing the treatment for about another 2 to 3 years before that stopped. So I'm thinking it was about 15, and in a
Okay.
couple of years, it's gotten away from us.
Okay.
Any other?
Okay.
Go
We'll bring it
forward.
forward at the next minute for at the next meeting for approval. Okay.
Just a couple of comments. Stone Harbor Point, coordination with Division of Fish and Wildlife continues at Stone Harbor Point. Their site is being monitored on a daily basis for nesting and nest activity. The Stewards Program is gearing up for the summer, along with coordination with law enforcement and for training as well as scheduling. We have received the schedule from law enforcement. The Stewards will start this weekend. They're being trained Thursday and Friday, so they'll be on site beginning on Saturday. They're also responsible for escorting the police, the law enforcement down for their patrols down at the point. At this point in time, nesting success has been a challenge at the point. There's been fairly heavy loss of nests so far due to a combination of flooding tides last Saturday night, took out some nests, but there's also significant predation by fox out there as well. There are currently 2 American oyster catchers nests with an anticipated hatch date effectively today. I haven't gotten word whether they have hatched. There are still piping plover nests that are out there that are still hanging on. As soon as we receive word that those nests have hatched, that will trip the police into another level of driving restriction, where they now need an escort and an open vehicle to see the chicks. So we're kind of right on the edge of that notification coming in. Okay, any
Okay.
questions?
Thank you, thank you.
I have a quick question, and I brought it up at the last meeting. I wasn't here a month ago during the work session when this first came up about the fox and the snare traps at the point. I need to know how, or I want to know how, members of council, and I looked back through the minutes from previous meetings of natural resources, and I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed it previously when looking at those minutes, but how on earth this council was not informed that snare traps were killing foxes at the point in Stone Harbor? I mean, I would expect that to appear in big, bold letters in the minutes. Say, Fish and Wildlife is here. They're using snare traps. This is what they are, and they're killing fox in favor of piping plover. How is it that we get here and none of us know about it? I find out about it on social media. I mean, it's very upsetting.
We did, Jill and I met with both state and federal Fish and Wildlife on the 8th of May. And at that time, I did ask them the question, what's endangered and what is threatened? And it does not matter whether a species is endangered or threatened, they're still afforded the same protections. That is one thing that I did learn. I did ask them at the meeting, what was the choice of traps? Why the snare traps?
Right.
There really is not a viable answer other than they're effective, I think, is what their answer is. I asked them different things. I asked them, can you use different types of traps? Can you relocate? Can there be a more humane way of dealing with this? And I was disappointed in all their answers, and at one point, and I kid you not, and Jill was there, I was told that sometimes when the trappers walk upon these snare traps, the foxes are asleep, and these are really not an inhumane way of dealing with predation, which I really find difficult to believe. I did look at our conservation plan for the point, because during that meeting, they did reference the conservation plan for the point. And I looked at our plan, and our plan specifically states we will partner with ENSP to continue to trap and remove or relocate mammalian predators, e.g. red fox, skunk, and raccoon. And I was told during the meeting relocation was not an option. But however, our conservation plan does say it is an option. And it does say it has to be along the lines of the New Jersey DEP guidelines, which the state is granted some autonomy under those guidelines. So all of that being said, it personally does not sit well with me that we're using cable, what they refer to as cable traps, at the point for predation control. I asked why we cannot have humane monitored traps. I was given a lot of different reasons why. In my personal opinion, none of them viable. I have trapped myself. A monitored box trap is humane, and it doesn't cause any undue stress on the animal if it's done properly. All of that being said, I mean, I would open it up to this council whether or not we would like to just put some pressure on Fish and Wildlife to have a more humane way of dealing with predation, if there could be another way of dealing with it. I strongly suspect what's happening is traps are being set based on a Monday through Friday work week. So a trap is being set at 4 p.m. and it's being checked 16 hours later at 8 a.m. That would be my guess. I don't think anybody's coming out in the middle of the night and checking a trap. So I'm going to guess that if something is snared, I don't think any of them are sleeping. I think I'd stake my life on that. Nobody's sleeping in a snare trap. I would like to see if we cannot, but of course, this is nothing I can do on my own. I would like to see if we can't put some pressure. We do, to some degree, we're under the thumb because of the Endangered Species Act. We all love the point. We all know it's a gem. We all know this. We all love it. But isn't there another way of handling the predation control? A more humane way?
Absolutely. But again, my question goes beyond that. It's why did we have to find out through social media? I mean, isn't this something that should be coming immediately and directly as soon as or before it even happens? I'm assuming there was some sort of notification that, hey, we're coming and we're going to do this. Isn't that like, hey, red flag, let's tell council. They're coming with snare traps, cable traps, and they're going to start killing fox at our point in favor of another species. I get the Endangered Species Act. I'm all for pushing back or finding a humane way. Like you said, our ordinance provides for relocation. If there's an effort or a way to do that, I think we should absolutely, most certainly do that and pursue that. But I'm really asking a different question here is, how do we even get here and find out after it's being done? That's what I'm getting at. Why are we finding out? Why am I finding out a month ago after it's already taking place? This is killing wildlife. I mean, this is significant, and we need to know about this. It's upsetting.
The borough does receive a notification of a time frame when they are going to go out. That information most recently has come to me, and I will forward that to the mayor, the clerk, and the chief of police. However, they do not go into any kind of detail of what they're doing.
As far as what they're actually utilizing trap-wise. They did in the last, when they reached out last and said they would be trapping May 13th through the 17th.
Right.
Then we asked, what form of traps are you going to use? They said the snare traps. So, as I said before, I cannot unilaterally say, you can't use snare traps at the point. I cannot unilaterally say that. All I can do is ask that council, that we have a consensus, that pressure be put on them to find an alternate, more humane way of doing this. I do think it comes down to money often, too. It's the cheapest way to have somebody there in the middle of the night, because, of course, there's, nocturnal animals. There is ways of monitoring traps with electronic devices that are above a trap. They'll watch it, you read it on your phone, and you know something's been trapped, and you go and you get it. You don't leave something there for hours. There is ways. It's going to cost money, and I think that that's usually what a lot of things come down to. It's the cheapest way to do it. And I understand that relocating wildlife is not the best-case scenario. I understand that. But I think snaring them is certainly not the best-case scenario. And I don't think we're inundated. We don't have 40 foxes. How many do you think there are there? Are we guesstimating 2 to 4? Any idea? Did they give us an idea of how many?
The challenge with, there are several challenges with foxes. First of all, they're cunning as a fox. There's a reason that's
Right.
the term. And the reality is box traps are almost impossible to catch fox with. I know for a fact they tried to use box traps repeatedly for years and were 100% unsuccessful. So for different species, they use different methods. I will submit that the state of New Jersey has some among the toughest and most restrictive trapping laws in the country. They're only allowed 2 or 3 choices for snaring, for trapping fox. So I think I would submit to you they're professional. They do their work. Every one of those people that work there is sensitive to wildlife. They spend their life protecting wildlife. So I think it's the professional courtesy is to assume that, in fact, they don't want to be cruel and that they are doing everything they can, in fact, to provide the least stress on animals when, in fact, there is a need to manage wildlife. We're talking about an animal that arguably has been introduced here, that was never present on barrier islands, that's walking across our bridges. Their populations are exploding because of us. They're eating our garbage, they're eating our food. They are concentrated on the point because that's where these birds are and they're easy to get. The birds don't have anywhere else to go. So we're at a point when it comes to talking about these wildlife where, yes, we're being asked to make a decision between animal X or animal Y. And that's a decision that's being made at the state and federal level, and to some extent locally when you say we need to do these. How are we going to protect the point? So we're talking about both federal and state protected birds, but we're also talking about state endangered birds. And the state has the responsibility under Section 6 to also protect those birds. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about fox that are exploding on their population. Relocation is not an option because they're rabies vector animals. You're not allowed to move rabies vector animals around. So you're asking them to do things that they...
But that's not what the New Jersey DEP guidelines say. They do not say you cannot move them around. They say you can, and the rabies vector animals are specifically listed. It says you can with the state's approval. It says you can.
And then if you talk to wildlife biologists, they will tell you the stress on an animal for relocation is extreme. So you're making a decision based, I think, on emotion, and there's a lot of emotion on this issue on all sides, from the people that are upset about the birds to the people that are upset about the wildlife. That's always a charged situation here. There's no question about this. This is a difficult situation for everybody. The fact of the matter is the state believes and understands that the stress and survival of relocated animals is very low and very poor, so they don't recommend relocating animals. You can ask them for them to take the approach of relocating the animals. You can certainly...
I did. They said it's not an option. In that meeting I did, they said it was not an option, and it was after the meeting because they referenced our conservation plan.
Correct.
So it was after the meeting. They said, look at your conservation plan. And I looked at our conservation plan, and our conservation plan does say relocate, and it specifically says fox. Specific. So it is in the relocation plan. So I kind of walked away from there, just, I walked away, looked at this, and then I thought, well, they were asking me to be more familiar with the conservation plan.
The conservation plan was written in 2008.
Right.
And it's a requirement of your beach renourishment funds and funding and that conservation plan. There have been significant changes to the way they think about wildlife and how they work with different wildlife, and those have changed through time. Fox was rarely an issue in 2008. Fox is the major issue now. So you're seeing shifts in populations, you're seeing shifts in how they understand how to manage them, and they may, if they rewrote that plan, which they are scheduled to do soon, they may not include relocation based on their experience.
Well, I guess what's interesting is it's not a they, it's a we. When we rewrite this plan, Like, there's no they, we're a partner in this plan.
Correct.
So, and I agree with you. I agree with you on it's emotional. I 100% agree with you. I met with folks in 2004 on the same issue. I am referenced in the conservation plan because, I personally trapped, I think you'll see 50 cats and got them off, I got them out of the bird sanctuary, got them out of the point. I'm referenced in there, and, so I'm familiar with it, and it is a we situation. It's not a they situation.
Correct.
So I would just submit that no, it is not the best case scenario. But I talked to a wildlife expert, and I said, tell me about snare traps. And his exact words were, those things are nasty and should be illegal. That's what I got from a wildlife expert. They're nasty and should be illegal. I didn't know anything about them. I went to YouTube. I know a lot more about snare traps now than I ever knew. I didn't know we were using them. I honestly did not know we were using them. I honestly think, it's going to sound horrible, but I think a gunshot's better. But this is, and the fact that they sit for hours. You don't know if they're dispatched immediately with the snare, or does it take 5 hours, or what are they doing? And I think there just has to be a better way than they sit there for hours.
The snares they're using don't dispatch the animal. It just retains them.
So they just sit there and basically struggle until somebody comes along 16 hours later. So talk about stress.
Well, you're assuming it's 16 hours. They're nocturnal animals. Yes, the traps get set late in the evening, and they're checked in the morning. You've got limited staff. You've got a federal
Right,
office.
that's what I said, it's money.
They're moving, there's just a lack of staffing. And,
Right. But if you can get a device for like $99 and put it at your front door and see who's arriving at your front door and monitor that from 40 miles away, why can't they do that? Why can't they put some kind of a monitor above the trap? There's no human there, it's a monitor. Now you know you got something. It's a monitored trap. I said to them, the humane way to trap is a monitored trap. An unmonitored trap is inhumane. And like I said, I just submit to this council if we can have a consensus that we would like to have them trap in a different, more humane manner.
I submit to you that they will tell you they believe that what they're doing is the most humane manner for the effectiveness of protecting the endangered species there. So I think you can certainly do that. Obviously, you can.
Right, because everything that I said, every reason I gave, there was everything I said, there was a reason they couldn't do it. Every single thing I said. And I just find it difficult to believe in this age of technology that there's no way of knowing immediately when a trap has sprung.
Even if you do know it immediately, I don't know that they could react to it. That's why I don't, so now there's an animal that was trapped.
So go get it.
Well, the person that's going to go get it is somewhere else on another trap system in the state. So I'm just saying, there's all.
Right, so it's going to cost money. You can't have somebody 50 miles away. Have somebody within 20 minutes.
Perhaps it would be suitable to write a letter to the authorities and ask them to increase the people available to work on this so it's more humane. I think that's perfectly appropriate.
All right, well, that was the intention at the meeting. That was certainly the intention at the meeting, was to say, we're not happy with this being the method of choice. But then what happened is a week later, they just came in and did it again. And, we're probably going to sit here and we could beat this to death for the next 25 minutes. I'm just saying that there's got to be a better way. I said that to them, 30 years you've been doing it the same way. 30 years, there's got to be a better way.
I'm not a woodsman by any stretch of the imagination, but I think everybody on council here probably would agree that we don't want foxes at the point. So the question is, how do we get them out of there in a humane manner? So I think we would all support going back to, is it the state, Lenore?
And both state and federal.
And having further discussions with them about what can we possibly do, and you would have council's full backing on that. But, it's like the beach access plan that we're going to vote on later. The state's going to.
They
could say, hey, this is how we're doing it. And,
right.
And this is it.
Right. They're going to, right.
So then we're going to have to decide, we're going to let the foxes run loose and eat all the eggs or not. I don't think we want to do that either.
And I agree with you.
But at least we'll have we'll have discussed it, or we could say, we could push it as far as we can to see if there is an alternative, and maybe hunting is
The more
the
humane.
answer. You know, I drive a lot for my job, as most of you know. There are foxes all over the roads, dead. I mean, they certainly can't be endangered in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, you know. But these birds are. So that's the decision we're going to be faced. So I think we should push the discussions a little further, get some better notification of when and if this is going to occur, and see if there's an alternative. And then at least we'll have satisfied ourselves whether we can't go any further with this.
Well, and Ray, the other thing I would add is that it seems like it's going to be more prevalent in the future. So you know,
Exactly.
we're seeing the fox population increase and expect it to continue to increase. I think now's the time for us to have further discussion.
And I agree with you. And the other thing that I see, and I see this in my other life of animal control, is when you're trying to do trapping and you're trying to address these problems based on a Monday through Friday 8 to 4 timeline, nobody ever gets anywhere. And I watched this entire county for 10 years spin their wheels.
That's not accurate.
I live it every day. It's accurate.
That, I can tell you right now that they are not on a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 schedule. I know that for a fact.
Well, they were coming in Monday through Friday were the dates we got. The 13th to the 17th is when they were coming. That was in the last email I received. They weren't doing it on a weekend. So what I'm saying is if when you attack an issue, you got to attack it. You can't attack it Monday through Friday, and then you have what Reese is talking about. Things get worse because then they reproduce. So it has to be a really concentrated effort done properly. And it was, Lenore, it was Monday through Friday is what they're trapping.
They were out removing traps on Sunday, okay? I know that for a fact. So
Well, the email that we were given by the state was the
you have to
13th to the 17th was very specific.
they think they're also going to try to balance, again, I'm trying to think about a little professional courtesy here, that they might actually understand the situation. They probably are trying not to trap on Stone Harbor Point on a weekend when the people traffic is very high. And frankly, that's what they're trying to avoid. So they move around and they set time windows, first related to when wildlife is moving and when they're most likely to be able to trap them, when they'll do the least damage to the family structures of foxes, and when people are not around to create problems. So there's a whole bunch of things that are going on here, and I think it's just difficult to talk about it this way, absent the larger picture of how these people that are professionals that have been doing this for their entire life in a sensitive way are making decisions about what's the best way to go about these things. And I think it would behoove us all to think a little bit more broadly about it. First point. Second point, the notion of hunting has come up, and there are a lot of interesting questions about that, and I would urge you to consider that, because if you want a humane way, you want something that's probably going to work, that's probably the thing to do. The borough has a lot of ordinances that would prevent someone from discharging a firearm on the point, and these are questions that would have to be addressed.
And that is what I'm saying. We would like to address them, is what I'm saying. And I do think, and like you said, a broader spectrum, I believe they operate in a vacuum way more than we do because it's their mission and their mission alone. That has been my experience for 15 years. And I think that they also need to think a little bit about community affecting, how it affects the sensibilities of this community, and to have a better conversation with representatives of this community rather than they're falling asleep in the trap. I mean, it's kind of insulting to be told they're falling asleep in the trap. So, I'll submit to you, I sat there for an hour, and I walked away feeling a bit of a fool when I saw that it was actually in our plan, and to be told that they were asleep, like I said, it's insulting. A monitored trap. It's a whole different story. And it's money. It's all going to come down to money.
Well, you also understand that fox, there's an open season on fox. So outside of Stone Harbor, people are actively taking fox as a game animal. So they have to balance the trapping laws in the state with wildlife management laws within the state also. So it's
I get it. It's just, the whole thing, like you said, I think everybody gets it. I really do. I think everybody gets it. I do.
I think it's a healthy conversation, and I'm glad you're willing to have that conversation. I know the state and the federals are always interested in having that conversation.
I'll argue with you on that forever. They're not interested in any conversations, but that's beside the point. So I say we close the topic.
Yeah, I think we should close the topic. Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Now to just do something that might seem a little bit silly, but it's not. I know that many times Public Works do lots of really great things, and I found out this week that I didn't know was happening, but I'm glad it is. As we talk about our bird sanctuary, I forget how old the benches are that are in the sanctuary, but they are old, and they are teak benches, and they're dedicated and to people's memories. Public Works has been going into the sanctuary, and I have pictures which you guys can't see, but I'm going to pass them to council, of what the benches looked like first, because of the years that they've been sitting there. And you can't see this either, but they've been taking them, power washing them back at Public Works and making them look like they are brand new. And it's the details. People say the devil is in the details. I think that people have already noticed some of these, and I just want to say, good job. Thank you.
And just one more item on natural resources. If you see the paper today about Congressman and our CBRA issue testifying before the new chairman, the House Natural Resources Committee, there's a 6-minute YouTube video, and it has the congressman talking to the new chairman and talking about our issue specifically, talking about New Jersey number 9, and saying that there needs to be a solution for us folks here in Cape May County. And there is portion of it's on the front page of the press today, there's portion of the press release, but there is also this YouTube video, which it gives us hope that maybe we'll come to some kind of a resolution and be able to draw sand from there. We should put a link to that YouTube thing on our website.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. Oh, when you see that, it's very encouraging.
I don't want to reignite this conversation again.
Oh, no, we're going back to Fox's?
Just wait, just wait. So what did we decide we're going to do? Are we going to write a letter? Are we going to contact
We can meet.
somebody?
I'll meet.
What are we going to do?
I'll go talk to them again. With support, I'll go talk to them
I
again.
think you have the support. I mean,
Okay.
do you need something in writing? Do you need, like, I don't
No, you're telling me now, if I have a consensus, then Jill and I will go back up with the same folks and we'll talk to them. And we'll talk about, I don't know if you shared what I saw in the conservation plan with them or not, because I just sent it to Jill and said, I found this. And she said, you want me to share it? And I didn't answer. Because I didn't want to do something without a consensus of,
I'm a big fan of memorializing whatever it is in some form or fashion in writing. So to that extent.
so we could do something and do it at the next meeting, perhaps?
Perhaps
Okay.
draft a letter and have.
We'll do something and then, and actually vote on whatever that correspondence is. Okay, got it. No, thank you, because I didn't think beyond that. Okay. Anything else for any of those departments?
Just one thing while Lenore is here. There have been a few questions and comments as to why council chose to put the compostable element in it. And I know Lenore is really good on the science of it, and I thought it would be valuable if she could come up and just explain that again. I know she explained it when council decided to keep that into the ordinance. If you want.
Yeah, sure. So there are a couple of answers to that. When you're thinking about waste and pollution, and I believe this started as coming at it from a marine pollution and ocean plastics was one of the ways this started. There's two sides to the equation. There's the benefit of certain products from the production side of the equation from an environmental aspect, and there's also on the disposal side of that. So you're talking about the challenges with recycling, and that continues to change and be a challenge. Yes, indeed, there are no composting facilities here. We hope the answer is yet to that. So one of the components about the compostables is that they are produced with sustainable materials. They're not produced with plastics or petroleum-based products, so that they do in fact break down in the environment better. So the idea of including them was on the front side benefit on the production side, from an energy use, the sustainable materials that go into them. They're made of sugar cane and other grasses, they're made of other things, bamboo, other things that are sustainable resources to start with. So you start with a sustainable product. So in that regard, they're a better product than a plastic. On the backside, if they're putting in industrial composting facility, they will break down quickly. We don't have an industrial composting facility, but the notion was that perhaps that'll change and you won't have to revisit your law. The other part of that is that one of those compostable plates or any other item that ends up on the beach, that ends up in the marine realm, breaks down. So there's two sides to why, and I think both of them were under discussion and included as part of the consideration for why to include compostables without a composting facility. And the
Makes
other
sense.
part of
Questions?
yeah, well, the other part of this, if I'm a vendor and I am being challenged with the changes the MUA is continually making about what's recyclable, you know, the ordinance was tied to recyclable there, and they're changing that, so that's difficult. My answer is then go with compostable. You can't be wrong. If I'm a vendor, that's
Yeah.
always correct. It's an easy out. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? All right, nothing more on the agenda. We will conclude the workshop, and we will reconvene 4:30 for the council meeting. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.